Welcome to the Enchanted Earth podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own. Welcome, everybody, to the Enchanted Earth podcast. And today I have with me Amanda Walsh. And let me tell you a little bit about Amanda. Amanda Pua Walsh is the CEO and founder of Astrology Hub. She hosts the weekly Astrology Hub podcast, a top-ranking astrology podcast with over 80,000 downloads per month, featuring conversations with the best astrologers in the world today. Prior to this, Amanda was co-owner of a successful technology consulting company in New York City with a master's degree in psychology from the University of California, Santa Barbara. She left New York and her career to embark on a more heart-centered life in Hawaii 9 years ago. In her work, Amanda blends her diverse background in business leadership, psychology, digital marketing, and media with her passion for astrology, spirituality, and personal growth. So welcome, Amanda, to the podcast.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Just a few updates. It's actually been 12 years since I moved to Hawaii at this point. Yes. Yes. And we've had 11 million downloads of the podcast at this point in time, which is kind of mind blowing.
That is. But as someone who's been following your podcast now for the last 5 years, I just have to say that what an important part of moving and shifting in this time of raising consciousness. I mean, I don't know what I or my friends or so many of your followers would have done without just the amazing wisdom that you gather from so many astrologers around the world.
Wow. Thank you, Maureen. I mean, I'm in the same boat as all of you. Like I get so much out of having these conversations with the astrologers and in 2020, 2021, 2022, and now looking into 2025 and 2026. It's like the what the lens that astrology gives us to navigate these shifting tides and some of the really big waves that we're riding collectively. It's just, I'm with you. I'm like, I don't know what I would do without it. So I love that I get to share it with all of you and that you get benefit from it as well. That makes me really happy because then we get to keep doing it.
Yes. So it's been, I don't know, maybe definitely over a year that you and I talked first, and you have a story in my book. And I was so excited that you actually really kind of like woke me up to something so basic. But I had been focusing, all of the stories in my book were about terrestrial connection.
Yes.
And when you came on, I mean, of course, like the astrology queen, and you brought the magic of the stars and the planets, and the archetypes and the metaphor all around that. It just really blew me away, and I was just so excited and inspired by that.
Maureen, it's so amazing that you say that it blew your mind and it brought in it, but it did the same for me. When I had that moment of, oh wait, nature isn't just Earth. Nature and like all the things on Earth, right? Nature includes the planets and stars. Like, of course it does. It seems like such a obvious thing now, but I do remember having that moment of, oh my God, why do I only think of it as trees and flowers and grass and not planets and stars and the entire universe? Right. So I'm with you. I don't know why I had that same sort of inclination towards what nature is.
Yeah. And since I started the podcast back in this April 2024, and I had Gemini Brett on here.
Oh, good.
And he shared his starology and the way he looks at the sky, which is, as you know, just so amazing because he really does merge the astronomy and the astrology and actually the physical practice of going out and seeing the planets, and not just like most of us who learn astrology, we're looking at a computer screen.
Exactly. Exactly. I can thank him for really helping me cultivate that relationship as well. But I mean, I even think of 2020 and seeing Saturn and Jupiter in the sky all year. Like I would be driving home from carpool, in the evening, so it would be more like driving home from dropping a daughter at dance class or whatever. And I would be driving down my very windy road looking with my eyes to the sky on some level because it was I could see the horizon. And there's these 2 stars in the sky that they looked like eyes. Like, it looked like they were looking at us all year long, but also I felt so much love. I just I would feel this connection between these planets that I knew were, like, the big storyline of, and I knew Pluto was there too, I just couldn't see it. They were the big storyline of the year, and a lot of what we were experiencing was due to their dance. It was their dance that was initiating these huge changes on our planet. But I will never forget how it felt to physically connect with their presence in my life, and I missed them when they were gone. Like, I was happy that that big tsunami of energy we were riding had passed, but I missed their physical presence in my life and the way they were just looking at us like these loving eyes in the sky, and then knowing that Pluto was also there, like, as the third eye, but, like, that we couldn't really see. It was just magical. So, yes, the astrology to me, when we connect with them visibly, physically, it's a totally different experience of astrology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, of course, living in Hawaii with the amazing clear skies and the lack of, thankfully, tremendous light pollution. I'm sure there is some,
Yeah.
but it's nothing like being in the Northeast. I mean, I'm in New York, so
Yes.
um, it when have been really lucky to go to Hawaii 3 times in my life. Once for my honeymoon, once for a conference, business conference, and once 20 years ago now, or a little bit more, with my whole family. Well, it was my husband and my children, and we spent 2 weeks on the Big Island. So
Mhm.
the fact that you live on the Big Island, I mean, with the active volcano, I was entranced by that energy.
So I lived on the Big Island for 2 years, and I now have lived on Maui for another 10. So I started my journey on the Big Island, and it is one of the most
Mm,
magical, alive, raw, intense of any of the islands I've been to.
mm.
And it really, because I moved from Manhattan, and then I moved to the Big Island, and I was on the Hilo side of the Big Island, which is not the Kona side. It's not the touristy side. I landed in the very, very raw, very wild jungle.
Yes.
And it was the exact extreme pendulum swing that I needed at the time because I was in the very, hyper masculinized uh, Manhattan. And this was like going to the exact polar opposite, everything opposite to what I had experienced. And it was it was profound. I mean, changed everything. If I had come right to Maui, I think from Manhattan, I don't know that I would have had the experience of transformation that I did because it just like I got thrown in the fire. I mean, talk about active volcano. I got thrown in the pit of fiery alchemical transformation. And it was not easy, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like for sure.
Yeah. And having nature help us through that experience. I know that I've really identified for some reason, and I think obviously past life, I've really identified with Hawaii. I mean, a lot of people love Hawaii, and who wouldn't when you go to visit? It's just a magical place. But I have something deeper that I know it's past life stuff
Mhm.
and volcanoes and earthquakes and as a child, I was into all of that. And here I am. I spent my whole life on Long Island outside of New York City. So, there's never been a connection in a real physical way in this lifetime until I went to the Big Island and they had a fresh lava flow and I was able to walk 2 days later on top of that lava flow with that rushing orange river
Ooh.
under my feet.
Oh, yes.
It was one of the most intense experiences probably in nature I've ever had.
Mm. It is, and it's such a, for me, when I think of the volcano and the volcano energy, when I moved from New York to Hawaii, I was Pluto had just Pluto was dancing with me. And if people don't know about astrology, to me, Pluto is very similar to Pele, the goddess of the volcano. It's very much about the alchemical process of death and rebirth. And that's because as lava is destroying everything, it is also creating new earth. And so one of my nature experiences that was just like it had to do with lava. I had several lava experiences that were just life-changing, but one of them, it was towards the end of our 2 years on the Big Island, and the transformation alchemy didn't stop when we left Big Island. It continued on Maui big time. It actually got even more intense. But I felt like Pele gave me a parting gift because we had an opportunity to go out on a boat, tiny little private, fisherman's boat. And this was at the time I hadn't seen an active lava flow the whole 2 years I'd been there. But I had this invite probably a week or 2 before we were leaving Big Island to go see Pele, and we had to take the boat out on the ocean. It was very tumultuous getting out there, lots of waves, and as we got closer to the actual lava flow, which was going into the ocean, the the water started to get hot. And you could feel the heat from the lava, and there was steam coming off the ocean, like in every horror movie from, the 1980s or whatever, when you go into the cemetery and there's like the fog and the mist and everything. That's what was happening as it was coming off the ocean. And then we could see it. And it was like this bright, glowing snake coming down this mountain and weaving its way, and that it's destroying everything in its path. It's destroying everything, and that lava flow wasn't in the line of homes and trees and everything, but it has been many times. But as it came down to the ocean, it just came down in this stream, landed in the water, huge billows of steam just going up into the air. And then you just know that it's going down into the ocean and creating the next Hawaiian island. Every one of the Hawaiian islands is the result of volcanic activity. And so it was profound for me to just think about this whole process of this destruction that then creates an island that then becomes what I've come to realize is almost like a collective placeholder for the archetype of paradise. Like when people think of Hawaii, they think paradise. It's an archetypal vision that we all share on some level. And so this destruction creates these islands that then become what we consider paradise, a place that becomes a new home for birds, for all this different types of foliage and ferns and rocks and then eventually people. And we create homes there. And it's like that is what's happening in our lives. That's what's happening in our lives over and over as we have these experiences of transformation. And so to have that really visceral experience right before things got really crazy in my life. I mean, I think of that, the time that happened right after Big Island. I call it like the apocalypse, my personal apocalypse, because because the word apocalypse really just means to beyond the veil. it just means to be able to see beyond the veil. And at the time, everything in my life that I thought was me, that I thought that I was building towards, I had to let go of all of it. And I had to see what was real and true within me. And it was years of destruction of all the things I'd built, right? My marriage, my financial situation, my identity, who I thought I was, what I thought I was about. But Pele gave me that gift. Oh God, it makes me cry. Like, she literally gave me that gift of, like, it's okay. You're gonna come out of this better than ever. And and it's part of being human. And it's part of this dimension of reality. And you can do it. Like, you have that within you to do it. And Pele's story is so interesting to me too, because as a goddess, when she was younger, she always had this power. It was a fire stick that she carried. And she always had this power to create, to destroy. So she would go around and make fires, whenever she was angry, whenever she was jealous, whenever she just wanted to. So it was haphazard. She used her power in a haphazard way. Because of this, she got cast out. And so then she came to the Big Island and made a home there. Well, her sister followed her and they had a battle. And in that battle, her sister won and Pele died for 3 days. And when Pele came back, she was able to access her heart wisdom and then use her power stick with decisive, focused energy filtered through the wisdom of her heart. And when I think about what was happening for me in that time, it was a similar process of really coming into right relationship with my own personal power and learning how to use it in a in a heart-centered way, through the wisdom of the heart. And I mean, there were so many other things going on too, but like that was a really big part of it. And so that nature experience then fortified me in a way, didn't make it any easier what I went through, but in a way it kind of did, because I had that story and those archetypes within me. There were several calls within me that I was answering. And one of them really was a call to nature. And I wanted I wanted to be surrounded in nature, but I also wanted to raise my children in nature. I wanted them to know what grass was. I wanted them to, like, know how to climb a tree, I wanted them to have that experience. And and what so when we first landed on the Big Island, I realized I was much more of a domesticated cat at that point. Like, I was not I had fantasies of nature and, like, frolicking through fields and whatever, but the reality of it, when it was, like, hot and sticky and there were bugs and it hurt my feet to be on the lava and, all those things, it was like, "Oh, wow," like, I have a journey to go through even to be able to connect with this nature on this level. But what I've realized through the years is that as we get closer to nature, quote unquote, outside of ourselves, it is really just a process of coming back to our own true nature. Like, the more we're coming back to ourselves, the more we can connect with the nature outside of ourselves. The more we connect with the nature outside of ourselves, the more we connect with the nature inside of ourselves. There's no separation.
What I find in Hawaii is there is such a strong connection with volcano energy and the night sky as well, because there's just such clear skies. I know one of my first encounters actually looking deep into the night sky was at the resort we were staying at on the Big Island.
Mm,
And I couldn't believe I was actually seeing a spiral galaxy. Like, it looked like it was a picture
yeah.
from, somebody took a photograph and was just showing me the picture. There was such a deep experience, like actually looking into that spiral galaxy.
Yeah. It is It's interesting because I've done a lot of telescope peering. We recently had a star sky gazing field trip, like for my daughter's class. We went up to the top of Haleakala, the volcano that I live on now. So the volcano I moved to on the Big Island was Kilauea, and that's the active one. This one is dormant, a little more docile. And it's so interesting because I have like a mixed feeling with it. I love looking with my eyes without the interference in a way of the lens, but it's also super magical.
Yes. That's an interesting thought because I've always felt like cameras, like video cameras and our
Yes.
regular cameras are like separating us from actual experience and
Yes, it's the same sort of
engagement.
idea. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, there's like the benefit of it, right? But if we like live our whole life behind the lens and it's always for the shoot or always for then I definitely think we're missing out on the experience on some level. Yeah.
Yeah. So this experience of your Pele, have you shared it widely, I guess, should I say?
No. No, I haven't. I haven't shared it widely. It is going to be included in the book that I'm writing, which is why it's so fresh. Actually, I think one of the reasons I haven't shared a lot of these stories is because I hadn't had the process of sitting down and really considering all the different experiences I've had since moving to Hawaii. But in writing the book that I'm working on, it's been so delightful to just string it together and be like, whoa. I mean, it's been in sort of recounting these stories for my book that I've reconnected with them and having the vantage point now of being a little separated from the experiences. I can see how profound they were in the unfolding story that happened, you know? Like
Yes.
sometimes when we're living through them, you don't even know how important it was until you take that moment to look back and go like, wow.
I totally agree because when I was writing this book, I was thinking to myself, now what stories do I have to share? And just kind of reflecting and I realized there was a story from childhood that I never really looked at it through a certain filter,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how it was a really important part of my shifting my to my a more spiritual path even as a
Yes.
child. So, yes, and then sitting down and actually writing it, I think
Yeah.
that is such a crucial part of the
Yes.
whole process.
Yes, even if you're not writing a book. And I know writing isn't everyone's medium, but and I don't know when this is going to air. But we do have Jupiter and Gemini right now, and it really is if you are a writer or you get a lot from journaling or you would like to write something, this is a great wave to ride astrologically all the way through I think it's like March or April of 2025. This whatever the story is of your life or different moments of time in your life astrologically right now, if you have that impulse, like do it, make the space for it because it's very supported. And I started wanting to write this book maybe in like I don't know 2017, 2018. I wasn't ready, totally put it on the shelf. And then Jupiter and Gemini this year, when did it start? It started in June? No, no, no. Yeah, it started recently, but I went, "Okay." First of all, the impulse was already alive in me. I was like, "I'm gonna write this book. Dang it." Like I'm just a writer. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm tired of the stop start. I'm gonna do it. Okay. And then I also knew astrologically that there was a wave coming. And to me, this is one of the beautiful things about astrology is that when you know what's happening with the waves of the energies, just like the waves of the ocean, you can choose to surf it, dance with it, ride it, boogie board it, body surf it, whatever you want to do. Right. So I knew this wave was coming and I was like, okay, I'm riding this wave. And I have felt such a momentum that was never there before, ever. So it's like, and the timing's good for me because, like, personally, so it engages, we have these transits that affect everybody, but then it's also interacting with your chart in a specific way.
Yeah.
And it's in my 5th house, which is creativity. And it's like, it's perfect. It's like, it's really where I needed the energy to be in order to ride that wave. So,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you'll appreciate this, and some of the listeners might, that Pluto has been transiting my IC, which is
Ah,
4th house cusp. So I totally get. I mean, I'm in a different period, but I'm getting
right.
in that period of constant like rumbling and shifting my
Yes.
foundations and who I am, and it's been a real spiritual journey, I have to say.
The beautiful thing about uh, Pluto, and I think you already know this, and for anybody listening that doesn't know the astrology, well, the moment of our first breath, every planet and star was in a specific position in the sky. And so your birth chart, like that moment, based on the time, the location, and the day, it's like a screenshot of the sky. Both above what we could see and below what we couldn't see. And each one of those planetary placements, it 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 creates the blueprint of your of your life's experience in this lifetime. And so as you're going through life, you're having these different experiences that are based on that blueprint, on that architecture of who you are. So when we're talking about Pluto transits, not everybody in their life is even going to have significant Pluto transits. So when you do have them, it's like you got to like take advantage of that opportunity because no, it's not easy. It's Pele energy, it's Kali energy, it's Pluto, the lord of the underworld energy. So it's going to be guttural transformation. But the gifts are so profound. And I always think of Pluto transits, they're treasure hunts because Pluto rules everything under the ground, and everything under the ground was always gold and diamonds and gems and all the things that you had to dig for. And so those it's like going on a treasure hunt within our souls. And so I love that you get to be doing this and feeling that, but knowing that, doesn't that help you? Like
Oh,
for me, it helped me so much knowing that this is the point, the ultimate point of this challenging experience is for you to discover buried treasure within yourself.
I cannot imagine living without astrology in my life. It has been that important to my
Yeah.
spiritual path.
Oh my gosh. Speaking to the choir. I absolutely concur.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Yes. So as Pluto was stationing, I think it was in April of 2023. I
Mhm.
remember listening to Astrology Hub, and somebody was talking that day about Pluto stationing at this one point, and that was the exact degree and minute of my IC.
Mm.
And outside in the road, the town came and started pulling up the road just in front of my house. So
Oh
I
my
have
god.
this road construction equipment like shaking my house, and I went, "Oh, Pluto stations on my IC, of course." It's just like right there. But
I have full body chills. That's the thing is it's not even like metaphor. It's so literal. Our experience of these energies in our lives. And so then when you do know, it's like, oh, you can giggle at that. You can be like, oh, that's so it brings the magic of the universe like into our everyday reality because it is always speaking to us. There's there we are in a dialogue, whether we're or not we're aware of it. But being aware of it just makes it more fun and
yes.
more and more viscerally magical. It's like, wow, I love that you had that experience. That's so cool.
And I just want to also share that this morning I pull a daily tarot card, 2 cards every morning, just to see, kind of sets the tone for the day. So
Yes.
again, I'm like prepared for the waves of the energy coming.
Right.
And you will never believe the cards I got. I got the sun and the star card. And I went, oh, what benevolent energy. What amazing. It is going to be like the best day of my life. And then I went, well, of course, I'm having a conversation with Amanda today from Astrology Hub.
Yeah, Steve, that is what to me, it's like we get to be in conversation with the universe in a way, like people think that that's the misconception about astrology. It like breaks my heart when people think that it's like happening to us and it's being dictated. And there's this lack of awareness for a lot of people and by no fault of their own. It absolutely is the way it's presented a lot of the time that it's fatalistic in that way, right?
Right.
Like, and then people get afraid of it. Like then it's like kind of scary because like, what are you going to do about that? Like you have no way to influence that, right? But that's just not true. It hasn't been my experience at all. My experience is very much that it is a co-creative dance, that the awareness simply allows actually more choice instead of feeling like you're being like whipped around by these, unforeseen forces. You are actually in a relationship with it. And I think of it as a dance with the universe. And the dance is kind of playing the masculine role of holding us and creating the structure and the frame. And so being aware of it, you can like bounce off it, you can twirl with it, you can create beauty with it. And that's just, I just find it so helpful to realize that it's not happening to us, that we are in a dance with it. And the awareness just enables even more freedom of expression.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said that more. Yeah. More betterer.
Better. That's good.
And so, isn't it amazing how these really important, meaningful stories in our life are often not contemplated very deeply? They're kind of pushed aside. I know personally in the past, I've had, many experiences like you and so many others that they're just kind of pushed off. They're on a bookshelf somewhere. But the wonderful thing about it is that something will spark our memory of it.
Mm.
And it's never lost. We can bring it back up and experience it again through our words, through our writing, through just the contemplation of it. And I mean, these stories are important. So, this is why you're writing your book, because these stories are important to share.
You know what's so interesting is it has felt like, and actually a beautiful young woman reflected this back to me a couple weeks ago, that we have this witness with us. It's we have our higher self, we have our source connection, whatever you want to call it, but we have this higher self with us our entire life. And my experience of writing the book has been that I actually get to tap into that witness who I didn't even know was recording all of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I was having a different experience while I was living it, but that witness was always there. And, I can barely remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, let alone what the person was wearing and exactly the words they said and the entire scene. That in writing this book, I'm like, oh my God, I'm re-tapping into this experience, but actually like in technicolor, like in a way that I didn't even know that I lived the first time. So
Mhm.
yes, absolutely what you're saying. And just to be able to know that there's an aspect of ourselves experiencing our lives the whole time and really like keeping record of it. Keeping record of it in a way that we can access later when we need to at the right time.
That is so true. And to see the bigger picture that we're part of, it 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 puts a different I call it like creating like a personal mythology.
Yes. Yes.
All of these stories together are part of who we are, and it's such a deeper resonance than we're used to in our everyday life, in our
Totally.
conversations all the time. when we talk about these stories, the magic, it's like opening that treasure box.
Totally. So what you just said in terms of not knowing the significance of an experience like this until much later. I had an experience with a spinner dolphin and an experience with a whale that bookended my experience on the Big Island. I would have left the Big Island had that spinner dolphin not shown up on the first day. Like, it literally jumped out of the ocean. We had a very sad landing experience when we moved to the huge expectations about what was, coming to our new home. We had never been to the Big Island. I'd only been to Maui. So I had all these like ideas of white sandy beaches and Mai Tais and whatever. And then we land on the Big Island on the Hilo side, and it was not that. There was no white sand beaches. It was the least touristy Hawaiian destination you could imagine. No hotels, nothing. And and then, that we drove through the downtown, and I'm coming from Manhattan and thinking of Lahaina and like Kaanapali, and we drive through Pahoa. If anyone's been there, they're giggling right now because they
Yeah.
know. In 30 seconds, this old Western, like, totally broken down little old town. Anyways, series of just of like total expectations burst, just like, oh my, and then thinking, I got to get out of here. Like, this was a huge mistake. We need to leave as soon as possible. And I'm having a day of like a series of these. We're driving home, and on this beautiful, they call it the Red Road. You've probably been there. It's beautiful winding, trees covering it. And I look to the left, and there's the ocean and this spinner dolphin. I'd never seen a spinner dolphin in my life. This little beautiful dolphin jumps out of the water, does its spins, lands back in the ocean. And I just went, wow, okay, that seems like a good sign. You know, like, okay, maybe we're okay. And then it's very similar at the end when we were about to leave,
Mm.
and I look out to the ocean. This whale jumps up out of just the middle of nowhere, reaches, lands on its back, and it's like, you're free to go, is what I got. These 2 years have been exactly what you needed. It's time to go, and you're free. And so it's just, yeah, what you're saying. I didn't I didn't know that spinner dolphin arriving was one of the main reasons I would go through a transformation that would change the rest of my life. And I'm sure everyone has them. And I'm sure if you catalog and kind of think back to the different reasons why you stayed or left, or the different, signs that you got that were helping to nudge you in a certain direction, it's
Mhm.
been alive in and with us the whole time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not like for the special chosen ones. It's like it's just the more we pay attention, the more we and that's the thing about moving is I've realized, like, you're sort of on hyper awareness.
Mhm.
You're noticing things because you're not on autopilot. So for me, at least, every time I've moved, I am so hyper aware of my environment that I think I notice things more. And they were probably always talking to me. It's just that I'm paying more attention.
Yeah, and the same I would say because I haven't really moved much in my life, but I would say when you're taking a trip to like a retreat
Yes. Yes.
alone, I've
Yes.
had that experience
Yeah.
where you're kind of hyper alert, also like so open to
Yes.
like the synchronicities and what's going
Yes.
to happen next.
You're right.
So
Travel does
very
it too.
similar, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're in new environments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of your comfort zone, out of autopilot, out of like, yeah. And out of your busy reality of just day to day, what you're used to doing. Yeah.
Right, Amanda. So, do you have any closing thoughts to leave with us?
I just hope that this has inspired or reminded anyone out there to 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 go out under the night sky, even if you can't see it, it actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've had nights totally covered with clouds, or, actually recently there was a full moon that I really wanted to see. And I like, made plans so that I could go see this full moon. And of course, massive cloud cover. But I had one tiny glimpse where the clouds parted. And I went, okay, there you are. But then even when the clouds covered again, I was still connected to it. I could still feel that connection. And the thing with astrology is it can get very heady and very overwhelming really quickly. And what I would just love to encourage people is to just go out and ask. Like, is there anything for me? Is there anything is there anything to are there any messages for me? Is there anything that I can be more aware of? And I think that you'll be surprised at the willingness to communicate. And this is true. This is true of our spirit guides. It's true of God, of whatever your beliefs are. But like, it's just going out and really having that moment of connection. And I've just been learning so much about how good the morning light is for us. Sun, which also is a star, by the way. Like, that's another one of those things that I would often forget. Like, the sun, oh, it's a star. It's a star. Like, So, but the morning sun and the evening sun, how good for us biologically, like health wise, physically it is. So it's just another like reinforcement of like we're meant to be absorbing these cosmic rays on a very regular basis. And because we're always inside now, we're missing that. And again, you don't even actually have to see them, but being out and just having a conscious awareness that they're there.
Oh, absolutely. Everything you just said is so perfect, and it goes right along with having a conversation with a tree or a
Yes.
rock or
Yes.
a flower or a mountain
Yes.
and the sun and the night sky and the different planets. Just perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on here today. It's been such a pleasure talking with you, Amanda. And I would invite listeners to please comment. I would love to hear your thoughts below. Subscribe and like and share, please. And have a beautiful day. Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Comment below, share, and most of all, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll hear when we publish another inspiring episode. You can visit us at luminous-spaces.com for more information on our online courses, retreats, and offerings. Thank you and have a magical day.